I can see I have video. Looks like my audio is working too. I don't know what a good place is for this, but anyway, wow, so much going on, so many revelations, so much being exposed between the Diddy parties with the underage children and Satanism, and now there's another revelation. And this is near to my research and my writing, my book about Princess Diana, and as it now has evolved, also about Elizabeth Wallace, who was good friends with Princess Diana and a bloodline descendant of the Windsors that's been in hiding. She has incredible inside information, and I've been recording it for over a year. But Mohammed Fayed is in the news now. He died, and in case you don't know who he is the father of Dodi Fayed, who was the man who was Princess Diana's lover, and they both died in the car crash. August 31st, 1997, in a Mercedes in a tunnel in Paris. And Dodi is who he was to Diana is debatable. Diana's close friend and her butler, Paul Burrell, who wrote Royal Duty, said, who knew her extremely well and was involved with the, day-to-day details of her life. It's my little kitten. Said that Dodi was just a playboy, fling, that she was on the rebound from another man, Hasnat Khan, who's a Pakistani surgeon in London, who Paul swears was the love of her life. Now, Elizabeth Wallace, who, as I said, was a good friend of Diana's and knew things about Diana. Almost no one in the real world knew about Diana. The underworld knew all this information. That she truly was in love with Dodi, and sadly, Elizabeth said Diana told her before she died that she was pregnant. So that's another huge bombshell I'm dropping, and everyone will dispute this because they don't want to think it's true, but I believe Elizabeth, because she was the closest to Diana. I think if anyone, it's like subterranean of the underworld of child sex trafficking and MK Ultra and the monarch slave system. Elizabeth and Diana were closer than, say, Diana and Paul, and Diana and all her upper life friends, her aristocratic friends. So I don't know if I'm getting off track, but okay, so Mohammed Fayed is now in the news. I'm going to start sharing. Dodi's father, he's an Egyptian, or he was an Egyptian billionaire, Mohammed Fayed, who died recently. Let's see if I can share. So this is like what I'm going to tell you, nobody knows. Like, it's all over the news, all over the British news, all over the American news, that Mohammed Fayed is being charged by, I don't know how many women, hundreds at this point, or dozens. Well, I think there's dozens that are being interviewed now that he sexually assaulted. That's Mohammed Fayed right there. That he sexually assaulted and or raped and or sex trafficked dozens, potentially hundreds of girls, young girls. He liked blondes. And so it's all over the British news, all over the American news, Mohammed Fayed. Okay, that's him right there. That's him with Princess Diana. He was an Egyptian billionaire. He died a few years ago. Diana, right before she died, was on his yacht, the Yonicle, with Dodi. See if I can And this is leading up to something nobody, very Elizabeth Wallace, Arizona Wilder, and everybody involved with the royal family and their Satanism. So the day before Diana died, she was on Mohammed's yacht. Okay, this was a relationship that was pushed by Mohammed. He wanted this relationship. And it seemed like Dodi really liked Diana, but he was engaged to, what happened to it? He was engaged to Kelly Fisher, I think her name was. She was an American model. But he broke up with her to be with Diana, like while they were on the yacht or something. It was very fishy, really devastated Kelly Epstein. Right, I'm really leading to something here, like really, really big, really big. It's so big, most people aren't going to get it. But I thought I would mention it now. It's in my book, and I was going to leave it. See, there's the Jonicle or Yonicle, I don't know how to say it, 1997. 208-foot yacht. It was her last vacation. So I think everybody, at least my age, remembers Diana's pictures being plastered in newspapers across the world in these bathing suits. She had a leopard skin one, she had a baby blue one, but she made international news with this trip with Dodi. Unfortunately, within hours, she would be dead. So that was Mohammed Fayed's yacht. He's a billionaire, and of course, his son Dodi had access to all the billionaire pleasures. So there he is again twice, Mohammed Fayed. Mohammed Fayed, I'm going to repeat again, Dodi Fayed's father. Okay, so what I'm going to get to now is, okay, so it wasn't just, there's like dozens, if not, they're thinking there's hundreds, if not thousands of girls that were sex trafficked, raped, or groped by Mohammed Fayed at the Ritz that he owned the Ritz in Paris, and then Harrod's in London. And he would, have these girls come up to the top floor, or he would have them go on trips, and he would sex traffic them there. So it's all coming out. So now Paul Burrell, Diana's butler, who wrote the book Royal Duty, has come out and said he made an indecent proposal to Diana, leaving her shaken. Okay, so that indecent proposal was, I want you to marry my son because in Egyptian tradition, the father goes first. He then boasted, I'm going to sleep with you. So this is something he said to Diana, this old pervert said to Diana when she was there shopping one day. She went shopping at Harrod's a lot, and he harassed her every time she went shopping. And Paul Burrell never talked about this for some reason, probably because you could not speak out against this guy because he was not just a billionaire, but I'm going to get to what was really going on with him on a deeper level. I hope to God this is recording. So now, and he groped her, she said, and you can see this in the Sun. I won't play the whole video, but it's kind of a remarkable testimony by Paul Burrell that Diana was groped by him. So supposedly you're supposed to have a lot of respect. He always said in in public he wanted to be part of the British family. He was dying to be part of royalty, and you'd think he would treat her with a little more respect. She was, as we know, Princess Diana, Princess of Wales. I think she was divorced at this point, but she was the mother of the future King of England. But he treated her like she was a sex object, like he had no respect for her. I think that's pretty clear. So now we're going to get to my revelation here about Mohammed Fayed. Okay, the deeper story behind this that no one has written about. It's going to be in my book. Hardly, and no one knows this. No one would suspect it, except, again, I will say, the people on the inside. So what I'm going to tell you about Mohammed Fayed came from this woman. This is Arizona Wilder. She was an MK Ultra monarch, sex slave, mother goddess. In other words, she was tortured to become a ritual leader for the royal family. She saw Mohammed Fayed at a satanic ritual. So also there's another woman, not Fiona Bartlett, but not Annika Lucas. Chantel Fry is another MK Ultra monarch sex slave. These are people that are trained from childhood. Their minds split, and they're programmed, and they're all healing now. But she was a sex slave and ritual leader for the royal family until she escaped. So her testimony, along with Chantel Fry, to a degree, the testimony of Jeanette Archer. You can see all these people on 50 Voices of Ritual Abuse on YouTube. And Elizabeth Wallace, who's so far mostly testified to me. Okay, but Arizona's testimony, and you can see it here, Revelations of a Mother Goddess. It was about 20 years ago. David Icke interviewed her. She said she was at a satanic ritual. It was in one of the castles. I can't remember if it was Balmoral or Sandringham. A lot of things took place under the castles, or in the Vatican, palaces all over the world. But this one was taking place. It might have been even Buckingham Palace, she said. I've heard many testimonies, that satanic ritual takes place underneath most of the structures owned by the royal family, the ornate ones or the country homes. So she was there, and she saw Mohammed Fayed walk into the satanic ritual, sit down with the Queen Mother, and they were chatting. And she said they were chatting with animation, and they were familiar with each other. And this was right away, the whole thing about the royals being against the Fayeds is just a show. In satanic ritual, when you're serving Satan, that's your alliance is those people more than anybody. So, and she overheard the conversation. This was I think it was 1984, and this is the Queen Mother, not Queen Elizabeth, the mother, and she was sort of the head satanic. She was the head of the satanic family. The Queen Mother. I mean, she's been called truly evil, much more evil than Queen Elizabeth, although it's a matter of degrees. So she overheard Mohammed Fayed and the Queen Mother in a satanic ritual. They're waiting for the ritual to begin. And what she overheard was Mohammed and the Queen Mother saying that Dodi and Diana would be married, or they would be together in the future, and they would be married. And Arizona was saying, well, I don't understand. She was thinking this in her head. Diana is married to Charles, and they have 2 children. But as it has panned out, that Diana was used as a breeder, and another Bombshell, she was also MK Ultra, was also used as an elite sex slave, making money. She was forced to do this by the royal family, and a breeder, and ultimately she was going to be sacrificed. And they've known this since she was born, according to these people on the inside that know what's truly going on with the royals and the elite and the Satanists. So not only was Diana's death planned with Dodi while she was pregnant on that date, but it was planned that she would be with Dodi, and Mohammed Fayed knew it. He knew he was, and that is very, very, very common in with Satanists. They will sacrifice one of their children either into the sex trade, like the Hiltons, the Bushes. They all sacrifice 1 or 2 of their children, either literally sacrifice, to the death to Satan, or they'll put them into the sex trade business. So they knew, not by around 1984, that Dodi would be with Diana. And you can see, I followed the story because I'm writing a book about it, how Fayed was very involved in bringing them together, by the use of the yacht and everything that led up to that day and the death. It was highly orchestrated, by multiple parties, that were involved. I'm sure the Clintons, the Royals, the intelligence agency were run by a military industrial complex and the Vatican. And this was a huge sacrifice and to Satan, and everybody wanted in on it. It signified the death of the mother and the resurrection of the Antichrist. So it's been planned since she was born, almost, that she and her father probably know she was a sacrifice. But what I'm pointing out here is that the kind of disrespect that you're seeing by Fayed of Diana is very indicative of the truth of how he really felt about how, and he knew she was going to be sacrificed. He knew she would be with his daughter. He was, it's a form of ritual abuse. He was using to degrade, to terrify, to when you see men like this doing that to women, it's a reflection of their satanic selves, because that's what they do in ritual. Is satanic ritual, other than all the other horrors, is degrade, demean, strip you of the victims of all self-respect and self-esteem. So Mohammed Fayed was involved from the early 1980s with not only the ritual death of Diana, but the trafficking of her to his son and the sacrifice to Satan. It was a sacrifice to Satan, and it was a huge sacrifice because it represented the death of the mother, the death of the goddess. One of the energies that ties humanity together is the mother, and they needed to shatter us more, traumatize us more, and to help them usher in the Antichrist, which I'm not exactly sure who that is yet. So yeah, he is being he's on the news for all. Now, when you see on the surface level people like him and Diddy, that they go through multiple children, multiple women, whatever, without conscience, generally speaking, they're also going to be involved in satanic ritual. And that's too much to go into to explain now. But this is what is going on below the surface of our world, people. Satanists are sacrificing light workers, truth tellers, anybody of the light. There's one survivor of MK Ultra who was trained to be assassin. He said the CIA often sent him out to kill anyone Christ-like or had a Christ consciousness. So that's what our military is involved in, or the CIA. CIA, there's so many levels of control. I couldn't even say it in one, unless I made the entire video about it. But who does this? It's the 13 families. It's the 13 families above that. It's the military industrial complex. It's the CIA. It's the Vatican. It's Mossad. It's the Illuminati. It's the Mormon monarch, MK Ultra. It's like they all get a piece of the cake. They all like a sacrifice of Diana's stature. That would cause untellable trauma to the world. I don't know how many billions of people or millions, I guess at that point, watched it on TV. It traumatized the whole world. That's a biggie for them. They just love trauma, the Satanists. That's why this endless war. What's happening in Pakistan is a satanic ritual we can all see. So if you can see that, you can just imagine what's going on below the surface, which is worse, actually. Palestinian, the ones, the Israeli-Palestinian Holocaust. That's satanic. They love death. They love trauma. They love to keep us separated, as I keep saying. They want us to think that this politician will give us this and one will give the other, and they like to see us divided, and they live off of that trauma. So I'm gonna kind of wind this up. This is kind of as a bombshell. I'm sure there's not one other person on the planet reporting this, other than Arizona Wilder, which I'll put her link below. She came out with it in the 1980s, and no one has dared say anything because Mohammed Fayed was so powerful. He'd have you knocked off. And we don't know where she is. She has kind of disappeared, so it could be that she also died. But what Fayed was doing on the surface was probably not minor, because the rape, groping, trafficking of adult women on the surface is serious. But it's only a reflection of what he was doing in the worst side even of satanic ritual, which is pedophilia, ritual sacrifice, torture, all kinds of things. So this man was even worse in the underworld than he was on the upper world. And again, I keep saying this over and over and over, and we have to stop idolizing these billionaires and millionaires, because they haven't done anything for humanity. In fact, they do the opposite. Just because they have a Italian suit on and they look great and they got great shoes or whatever, if it's a woman, we're somehow met, like it's like blinded by the light. Like these people, this man was like the scum, the absolute scum of the earth, along with Diddy, Epstein, all of them, thousands. We're just getting, this is the tip of the iceberg. Stop worshiping these people and idolizing them. If you're a billionaire, chances are you're a Satanist and Freemason, because they support their own. Nobody comes before, even their family, they'll sacrifice if they're a Freemason and a Satanist, which sometimes go hand in hand. So anyway, I'm glad it's being exposed. Withdraw your energy from all these billionaire, millionaire, Hollywood stars. Chances are, they're involved in Satanism, either through MK Ultra mind control or because they're actual Satanists and they're evil. So, yeah, the point of this whole thing is this man was part of planning the death of Dodi and Diana in the car crash in the Mercedes in 1997 in Paris, according to the testimony of Arizona Wilder and the support of, I believe, Chantel Fry, Jeanette Archer, Elizabeth Wallace, who were also victims in MK Ultra monarch slaves, and saw Diana being forced one time by him. Actually, I forgot that. He brought her in. She didn't want to be there in the satanic ritual. He forced her and they wouldn't let her leave. So yeah, you can tell his total disrespect for her. It wasn't arbitrary. It was part of satanic conditioning to continually traumatize their victims. So yeah, I'm so glad things are being exposed, because we can't go on with blinders. You can't pretend this isn't going to affect you or your children or your grandchildren. We need to stop it now. This is the root of child sex trafficking, because, even though, Diana was an adult and Elizabeth was an adult, as they were children who were abducted and tortured and raped. So their mind would split. So they became sex slaves later on, for the U.S. presidents, the military, and the royals. So this is all about child sex trafficking, and they're getting children from everywhere now, from family courts, child protective, the border. They're like they're rabid for more children. As we become more and more evil, we've got to close up. We've got to get everybody out of the court system. Shut down child protective services. Close our borders. Like, we have to protect these children because they want to get rid of the mothers and the families. It was part of the 1960s disintegration of the family. Was they ultimately knew they were going to get these children once these families split up. Myself included. The women especially became very vulnerable, and thus the children. So this has to stop. So I'm glad it's all being exposed. And yeah, uh, hope everyone's well. Happy fall, and I'll be back soon.